So tonight I'm going to be trialling this Polyscene acrylic powder. It's a new product that I've been sent to test. So I thought, what better way to do it than to update this little shed demo kit that I made using one of my laser cut kits. So this kit comes with a 1/48 scale shed and a little garden bench. The first thing I want to do tonight is just update this model by adding a little bit of a bush to that section there, just to give it a bit of interest. So I'll just stick my snow powder out of the way for a minute, and I just want to create a little like evergreen bush just to give it something, like I say, a bit of interest on that side, and also gives me something for the snow to settle on. So I'm going to use this little bit of coconut fibre. It's actually from a hanging basket liner. So that's going to be the basis of my, or the base of my bush. And I'm just going to cut off a little piece like that, so I can stick it down there. So the first thing I want to do really is to bind the bottom of it so it doesn't keep spreading out. So I'm going to use some super glue here, and of course it's all gunged up at the top, so it's not coming out. So I just free off the top of that. Try again. Maybe I should have prepared the glue before I started to make sure it was working. I always have these issues. This is the trouble with not using a top as well. I just cut the top of this off screen. Try it once more. There we go, that's flowing better now. So I'll put a generous dollop, that's a good word, isn't it? Dollop. A generous dollop of super glue at the bottom there, and then to speed up the process, a load of activator spray. That'll just bind everything together like that. Also makes my fingers freeze. Okay, so I can now feather out the top of that. Of course, my fingers have stuck to the bottom. I'm just going to trim that flush so I've got more of a flat base to work with. Right, okay, that's what we've got now. It's still super sticky, so watch out for that. Now the next thing I need to do is obviously add some foliage to that, and I can use that, do that with a little bit of scenic foam. This is my homemade scenic foam. It's made out of furniture foam coloured with acrylic paint. It's quite a soft foam, this one, but it's a good one to use. Now I'm going to be doing this quickly tonight, so again, normally you'd use something like PVA because it's a bit more forgiving and you have a bit more workability time, but because I'm going to try and do this really quickly tonight, I'm going to use super glue. So I'm going to coat that generously with super glue and use my fingers to sprinkle on a little bit of foliage. Just make sure we've got a generous covering. And the ironic thing is most of this is actually going to be hidden with snow, but we just need to give it a base to work from. Alright, there's a little bit of bush starting to take shape. Now I'm just going to plant that right at the edge of our shed here. So I'll just pop that down a minute, if I can separate it from my fingers. That's rather too much of a generous portion of glue there, but never mind. Okay, let's stick that in place. I think actually it's going to be helped out by sticking it to the wall. So put a bit more glue on there as well, and we'll stick it down. And again, with a bit of activator spray to speed up the process, we'll get that stuck down. Okay, it's just a generic looking shrub, but that's going to be the basis of our bush. It's not going to be the basis of anything, it's just going to be a bit of interest. I just trimming off some of those little bits of excess stalk there. So that's pretty cool. A little bit of a bush growing at the side there. Now then, I'm going to go for sorry, we're not going to go for the snow just yet. What I want to make is a tiny little wreath to make it more Christmassy. I'm going to stick a little wreath on the door there. So to make my wreath, again we're going to use that scenic foam, but first of all we need a piece of wire. So this is some 1.4mm. I don't know what that equates to in terms of gauge, but it's 0.4mm wire. And before I'm preempting myself there, I'm just going to cut a bit off with a scalpel. It's fine enough that a scalpel will work in cutting it. I just can't pick it up now. There we go. So my idea is I'm going to use this paintbrush. It's a circular handle, and I've already sort of sized it up for scale on the door there. It's just about right. Possibly in truth use something a little bit thicker, but I'm going to go with this one. And to get my circle for the wreath, I'm just going to wind the wire around the brush handle, or more like use the brush handle as a handle to wind the wire around. It's a little bit tight because it tapers, but as you see there, we've ended up with a ring. Now, of course, you could find yourself a jumper hoop. I forgot what they're actually called. A bit of jeweler's wire. You can buy little pre-made hoops for jewellery purposes, but I'm making my own here. It's kind of lost in the contrast of the cutting mat there, but we've got that there. I just need to find a pair of tweezers now. Tweezers will be very handy for this next bit, because I want to pick it up. Let's move the brush out of the way. Alright. So the next bit I'm going to be using is more glue, but I don't want to get my fingers stuck in it as such. So the next thing I'm going to do is just saturate that wire hoop with some really thick super glue. I might need to reposition because it's getting in the way, or the tweezers are getting in the way a little bit, but I want to make sure the whole thing's covered. It's not easy to twist your arm around. Right, there we go. And again, I'm going to use that foam foliage again from before. Good evening badge. And I'm just going to generously... Don't know if I'm still on. I was having connectivity issues then, but let's see how we go. So, give that another blast. It's nicely stuck to my tweezers here. I've just realised I've not got my glasses on, so that's not very helpful. Okay, so another thick layer of super glue. We're going to make a really thick wreath here. Give my hand a round of applause. It's actually stuck quite nicely onto the tweezers, so I'm going to have to make sure it comes off. Essentially, what I'm doing is just making sure it's really well covered. And we're getting a nice circular wreath forming there. Okay, so it's very nicely attached itself to the tweezers there, and also my fingers. We've got a bit of bare wire there where the tweezers were in the way, so I'm just going to, in fact I'll hold on to it in a different place. Come on fingers, do release. Right, so just that little gap there that you can see. So a bit more super glue there, and we'll fill that hole in. Tap off the excess. There's a little white spot there. Just going to try and hide that with... I could actually paint it, but I'm just going to try and cover it up with some green foam there. Okay, that's quite a nice covering, isn't it? we've got a nice wreath-like shape there. So that's enough with the green. Now I just want to highlight it with a little bit of red. So I have some pre-cut. I have some pre-coloured sawdust. This is different. I could use coloured foam, but I've got some sawdust that I coloured up with some acrylic paint a little while ago. It's possibly a little bit too coarse, but for the purposes of what I'm doing here, it's what I want to do. So I'm going to add a few little spots of, I'm going to put it on this little lid here to make it easier to see. Let me just tilt down so we can see a little bit better. I don't know if I can zoom in. Can I zoom in? No, I can't zoom in. Thank you, random piece. Sorry, I didn't notice you coming in there. Sometimes we just do not see the comments. Right, I can't apply this direct because it's a little bit too clunky. So what I'm going to do is my usual technique of applying super glue in a more precise manner. Just going to use this scrap bit of card here. Put a generous amount of super glue down there, and then tweezers will help me hold it in place. I'm just going to add in a few spots where I want it some droplets of the thick super glue. Basically, I want to give this a bit of colour highlight. Okay, so now I've done that, I'm going to get my sawdust and I'll just sprinkle it all over. So in this case, we're making sure we've got it, and then I can just tap off the excess. There we go, perhaps a bit too much. Just use a paintbrush to give it a little brush. But we've got some nice red highlights on the wreath there, representing maybe like a little bit of poinsettia type effect. So I can now tip the excess sawdust back into the pot and put that back off to one side. And now, of course, we need to fix the wreath onto the door. And again, it's our lovely, trusty super glue for doing that. Because I've already put some out, don't want to waste that, do I? So I'll just, try not to get the tweezers in. I'll just drop some super glue onto the back of that wreath, and then that is not a pair of tweezers. With my tweezers, it's going to stick the wreath on the door. So someone's got a nice little garden shed here and decided they're going to celebrate Christmas by sticking a wreath on the door, because why not? Now I'm just going to try and persuade that to stick by spraying some activator behind it, because it wasn't quite flattening enough. That has worked. That's really nicely set now. So there we go. Christmas wreath, probably a bit too flower heavy on one side, but we're going to hide that with some snow and a little bush at the side there. So the next thing to do, the final thing to do, should I say, really, is to add the snow. So that's going to be an interesting thing to do. What I'm going to do is paint on a layer of PVA wood glue. So I'm actually going to use this wood adhesive, but obviously I don't want to use the whole pot, so I'm going to again just squeeze some out onto a scrap bit of card. It just so happens I've got a nice scrap bit of card handy. Oh, let's unscrew the lid of this. This is a well-used big pot of wood adhesive, and it's going to take a while to get it out. It does last quite a long time, but once it gets towards the end of the bottle, it can be difficult to get out, and you don't want to be squeezing directly from the bottle, so it's always a good idea to put it onto a bit of spare card. Now for this bit I'm going to need to use a brush to brush the snow powder on. So I'm going to be bold and use this decent brush. I have to make sure I wash this. So for the first layer, I'm just going to paint It seems rather excessive, this. Not excessive. I'm kind of destroying a model or a very nice paint job. But the roof is going to take the brunt of the snow covering, so we need it to stick to something. So I'm going to cover it with PVA glue, making sure I get right down to the edges, because that is essentially where the snow's going to gather most. You might think it's actually a bit of sacrilege here covering this beautiful rusted roof section, but I really didn't want to make anything from scratch tonight to demonstrate this snow powder. To be honest, it's the first time I've used it, so we're both going to see how good it is at the same time. See you later badge. I think it might be my signal as well, you know. Anyway, thanks for joining. So, yeah, like I said, just keep covering the roof with snow powder. Snow powder. I will be doing that in a minute. Glue. No, start again. Yes, I was right first time. Glue. We want to add glue. So it's the brunt of it's going to be going on the roof, and of course we're going to get a gathering. You're going to imagine this is a nice vertical snowfall, so it's going to hit any horizontal planes. So I'll just cover that with snow. We're going to not get any snow on the wooden sides, because that's not how snow gathers, but we might get it starting to dust up the sides of the wall there as it falls. It's not going to hit underneath the bush, because the bush is going to protect it. So let's paint our glue all the way around the grass here, but we're going to leave a nice circle where the bush is sheltering the snowfall, because like I say, it's not blizzard like. It's going to be a nice vertical snowfall. So we're going to have a bit of a clear patch right underneath the bush there, and that is essentially why I wanted to put that on, just to give it a bit of interest there, and also give that nice suggestion of shelter. So for some reason the door's been left open. Let's hope the snow didn't drift too much inside. It's going to cover the pathway, it's going to cover all the grass, and again, like I say, it's going to, whoops, just dripped, it's going to drift slightly up the wall there. It's going to cover that apex there, and we're just going to start getting a suggestion of snow covering the wreath, or the top of the wreath. So I'll put some glue over the top there. It's going to sort of really settle down behind it, so make sure I get plenty of glue there. And get a little bit on the underside there, and a frosting catching that bit there. And of course it's going to gather on the top of that open door jamb, and a little bit on the lock there, perhaps a little settling on the hinge. That's sheltered, so you won't see any there. This is all sheltered, the wall sides that is, but we'll continue putting some glue. I'm running out of glue desperately here now. I'll just have to pour a little bit more out. Of course I've let the bottle settle the opposite way around, so it's going to take a little bit to get the glue flowing. And I've just remembered I actually had a pot of scenic glue I could use, so would you mind popping that in there? This is not what, this it is, sorry. I'm going to use this instead. This is what I should have used in the first place, because it's easier to paint on. Would you mind sending me that in a message? I didn't quite catch what that was, and I don't think I can scroll back and see what it is. Anyway, this stuff is an awful lot easier to paint on. I should have just done that with from the start, but it's always a case of hindsight is a wonderful thing. So, this is easier to paint on. So I'll continue putting all the snow, the glue, where I want the snow to settle. Of course, if you're using snow powders on a model that that's going to be static, as in maybe part of your layout, and you want to revert it back to being unsnow covered in the future, these snow powders are quite useful for that kind of thing, because you can just literally sprinkle it on where you want the snow, and then when you're fed up of the snow, you just vac it all off again. And depending on whether you want to recycle it or not, you can use a sock or an old stocking over the end of the vacuum nozzle to collect it. Of course, you can also get proprietary scenic vacs as well for vacuuming up your excess terrain scatter, ballast, etc. So again, I'm going to use the bench as a shelter. It's going to be sheltered underneath the bench where the snow isn't going to gather. It's going to gather on the chair arm there, the bench arm, and again on that bench arm. Of course, it's going to gather on the seat. So plenty of glue on the seat there, and then it's perhaps going to drift in, even though we've got the roof is kind of sheltering it. I think it's going to gather as well on the chair arm there, and then, sorry, not the chair arm, the back of the bench, and then a little bit on the underside of there. And again, let's just finish it off by covering the back. So in certain circumstances, if the snow is falling in like a blizzard type condition, it'll drift, and in some respects you'll see plenty of snow falling. So like if the snow was falling from that direction in a blizzard with wind driven, it would start gathering really quite high on this side, and you perhaps get nothing at all on that side. But like I say, I want a nice sort of picturesque vertical fall, so we're going to have most of this covered with snow. And again, I'll just put a little bit of a drift up the wall, because it's quite picturesque doing that. Okay, so I think I've got glue everywhere I want glue now. I'm just going to rinse the brush off, because if I don't do that, I've got one ruined brush, and it's a fairly decent brush. Okay, so it's the exciting snow time now, but I'm going to try, oops, I just dropped my lid, to try and be quite prudent with the gathering of the snow. So I could do with a sheet of paper to help me catch the excess. I just need to see if I can find a scrap of white paper now. I think I'm going to be struggling. Bear with me a minute. Apple in the background. Find a piece of sticker paper, that'll have to do. I think it's actually card. Anyway, a nice bit of paper. Some white paper. That'll just help me with the excess. So it's snow time. Snow time. So this is a nice looking acrylic powder. And it does have a very nice sort of icy quality to it. I'm just literally going to sprinkle this by hand from a distance, as if we've got snow falling, and it's going to give us a fairly realistic settlement wherever we've got glue. So I'm letting it fall from my fingers in a kind of realistic way. Like I say, it's just gently drifting, not gently drifting, gently fluttering snow. Nice calm night, and it's just snowing away. I must admit, it feels really nice, and it has a lovely airy quality to it. It's not clumpy at all. In the past I've used bicarbonate of soda to simulate snow, mixed with PVA glue and white paint. And well, it's a completely different way of doing snow. It's like an instant drift, but it does have a very gloopy texture to it. This one, it does really look like very cold powdery snow. It's not the wet stuff that settles in a snowball making manner. This doesn't look like it's going to be very good for making snowballs with, really. Get nice picturesque snowfall, but it's not snowball quality. But this is the kind of effect I'm wanting to achieve. So wherever I've put glue, the snow is starting to stick to. You can see on the tree there, it's not completely covering it. All it's doing is sticking to wherever I've put glue, as long as I don't pour it where I don't want it to. So if you look there now, we've just got snow on the edge surfaces there of the wreath, very lightly gathering on top of the bush there. I just want to persuade it to settle a bit on the door there. And I'm just going to pour some more on. My fingers have gone off camera a bit, haven't they? Let's just pour. You see how it's settling nicely onto the chair arms there? I'm quite happy with that. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit there. And a bit more on the back here. Now, I'm quite happy with the way that it's clumped up, but obviously it's not going to stick like this unless I apply more glue to it. Hello, Dirty Basement Terrain. Thank you for joining. So I think what possibly I need to do on top of this is wait until the underlying glue structure is settled and then give it a blast with some hairspray. But for me, for now, that is absolutely the part. And like I say, if you're wanting to just have a temporary snow scene, this would be perfect, because you can get it to settle exactly where you want it to, in a kind of thickness that you want it to. But then when you've finished, you can just vac it all up. I forgot it was you that I sent the Christmas snow to, wasn't it? I've just decided to make another one because I'm testing this acrylic powder. So there we go. That is very, very quickly a Christmas snow scene with one of my laser cut shed kits. And the shed kit actually comes with a bench, so you can make this exact scene. All you need is a base to put it on. And this acrylic powder that I'm just testing out, very, very happy with that. I need to, off camera, experiment how I'm going to fix that in place permanently. So I think a nice spray varnish might do the trick, but also it might blow it off. So for now, this is just a temporary scene, because this is not fully settled in place. I need to work out how I'm going to do that. But if anybody has any suggestions, feel free to let me know in the comments, and we can work on that. But yeah, I'm very happy with this powder. It's really good. I've just left it settling on the side of the wall there as if it's been blown in. Very realistic, and I'm very impressed. So there we go. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. And if you're a regular viewer of mine, I might flick over onto TikTok and carry on with the house build. So you can catch up with me there. Yeah, I think hairspray from height and then varnish, that might be the good thing. I'm not going to do it right now because A, I don't have any hairspray, and B, I don't have any varnish. I need to go shopping. But there you go. That's it. I've said that so many times. I'm quite happy with that. What do you think? And if anybody wants to buy this off me, I will find a way of securing it. I will find a way of securing this, and I'm going to offer it for sale. But it's going to have to be done in the next couple of days, because otherwise we run out of Christmas delivery times, don't we? So There you go. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys, and I'll see you again soon. I'll see you very soon if you come over to TikTok, and yeah, that's where I am. LNR Models on TikTok. I believe it's got a space. It's LNR_models, but yeah, I'm going to stick this up on YouTube, so I'll post the video. Really, I don't have the energy to edit this down, so it's going to be reposted in its entirety in live. But basically, you've just seen, I don't know if you can see up there, timer, 30 minutes. It's taken about 30 minutes just to add a wreath, put a bit of a bush in there, and add the snow scene. So it's a very quick way of making a little Christmas scene. All right, thanks a lot. I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.